This mystery joint is one of the most underrated parts of the body. When people think about training the upper body, they just focus on the arms, but they don't actually think about what connects the arms to the rest of the body. Well, we're gonna fix that today by having an entire mobility session dedicated to training the scapula. Learning how to strengthen and control your scapula not only will unlock upper body potential, but it will also help reduce dysfunction in the spine, the neck, and the shoulders. So let's go. First position we're gonna work on are scapula cars. And the point of this is just to practice and move through space so we understand where our ranges of motion are in our scapula. So we'll start off, you can either sit like this or cross-legged. Arms are gonna be straight ahead, keep the elbows locked out, and then I want you to move about 45 degrees out. So we're gonna stay there. From that position, think about pulling your shoulder blades back. Keep the elbows straight, elevate towards your ears, and then protract or drive through all the way to as far as you can forward. And then depress, pull all the way down, and continue that same direction. So we're thinking about trying to make circles with our shoulder blades. While we do that, try not to let the arms move up and down, right? Or side to side and like that. You just want to think as if your arms were stuck in the middle of a gymnastic ring, you wouldn't touch the edges of that ring. So take your time. Also, think about not letting your head move, not letting that spine move, and just generate tension. So make a small fist in your hand. Now wherever you are, go ahead and reverse direction. So depress down, protract, go forward, elevate, retract. Try to make those circles as smooth as you can as well. You should feel like the shoulder blades are making these big spheres all across your back. Great job. Now shake that out. Take your yoga block, put it between your hands, just like this. Now keep the fingers long. Whatever happens to your hands, don't let the position move. And then we'll think about going into the cars. So pull your palm of your hand towards your body, then let your fingers go inside. Pull your fingers out towards the outside, and you're just gonna trace this circle. While you're doing this, if you can feel the block is literally blocking you from moving, and you shouldn't have excessive motion in the elbows or turning of the forearm. So we're just looking for nice, neat, controlled circles. It's pretty hard. And once we've got about 4 or 5 reps going in one direction, nice and smooth, go ahead and reverse. Now when we teach these to people a lot in person, sometimes people don't realize that they start to move their fingers as well into the motion, but that kind of defeats the purpose, right? So we want to think about keeping that hand the same position and just tracing the best circle we can. Also notice if you start to rush through that motion, just take your time, make it nice and smooth. Great job. Last thing we're gonna work on is cat-cow. Now why we work our spine? Because we wanna be able to differentiate spinal movement from scapular movement, because a lot of times they get coupled together. So go ahead and meet me on all fours, hand, knees, and feet. Think about pressing the arms away from the ground. So just driving tension through, and then find full flexion. Reach the ceiling with your spine. Once you're there, start to take your tailbone and stick it out. And then arch your back, segment by segment. Chest falls, and then head starts to look up. At the end of that range, exhale, tuck your pelvis under, and think about flexing each vertebrae back to that original starting position. At the top of that, go ahead and reverse. As we do this, try to feel the shoulder blades being relatively still. Your chest level shouldn't drop. You should think about actually just expanding your chest and then extending through your upper back, reaching up. Find flexion again. As you do this, keep the shoulder blades from protracting or driving forward. Just try to feel the spine, differentiate that. And then get one more rep each way. Also make sure you're not holding your breath. If anything, you can exhale when you're going into flexion, and then inhale when you go into extension. Go ahead and shake that out. Okay, so now we have a little bit more prep work for the wrists. So we'll be in a quadruped position. I want you to think about spreading your fingers out. Keep your elbows straight and start to drive those shoulders as far past the fingers as they can. Now, if you have a little pinch in the front of the wrist, back out of that range of motion. But remember, our goal is gonna be to try to get a stretch in the forearm. So once we're here, this is called wrist extension. Hang out here for just a little bit. If you, again, have a little pinch, you can also turn your fingers out a little bit and lean forward. And you don't want that pinch in front of the wrist. And try to have an induced stretching sensation in the forearm as well. So now we'll start a pateless contraction. We're gonna basically engage the stretch stuff that's on the open side of the joint. So all the stuff here on the forearm. Think about pressing your fingers through the ground as if you're trying to grab sand. Once you've done that, start to increase your intention. So really start to squeeze in. Again, not inducing any pinch, and hold that position. 15 seconds, maintain that. Keep driving through. Isometrics are no joke when you know how to do them. Hold. So now reverse direction. Drive the heels of your hand through the ground. Look at the tops of your hands. See if you can get all the tendons to pop out, and imagine trying to lift your fingers off the ground. Hold. This is what we call rails contraction, firing all that regressive tissue stuff that's gonna pull you deeper into the stretch. Good, maintain. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly back out of that. Now we're gonna add some eccentrics to that. What do we mean by eccentrics? Well, we're gonna lower into a stretch position. So come off your heels of your hands. Think about driving the shoulders forward, keeping the elbows straight, and then slowly lower, about 3 or 4 seconds, all the way back down. As you do that, lean your shoulders forward to get that bottom position. Go ahead and reset. Take your time with these. We're gonna just go about 10 reps. If this is a new sensation for you, you don't have to load as much. You can also think about driving the shoulders back if it gets too heavy. For those of you a little bit more advanced, you can drive your shoulders forward and start to really load into that stretch position. Let's do about 4 more reps. Control, squeeze the fingertips into the ground as they can come down. Good, reset. So I go kind of very quick on the way up and then slow on the way down. Come out of it, get a little blood back in there. We got 1 more set, but this time we're gonna go from flexion. Start in the knuckles. Keep the elbows and wrists straight. If you can keep a closed fist during the entire time, great. You may have to let go of some of that. All I want you to think about doing is slowly letting your wrist bend and finding that stretch position, this time on the front of the hand, and then reset. If you need less weight, you just simply move your shoulders away from the wrist. If you want more of a challenge, you just keep your shoulders more on top of the wrist as you go down. And we'll take about 3 or 4 seconds, then we come back up. The reason we're doing this is, again, we're just trying to prep the wrist, get some more blood flow through there. Also maybe potentially open up some short-term range of motion, just to help us out when we go into a lot of our scapular work. And the entire time I'm going down, I'm trying to resist it. You know, I'm basically letting myself win. What I mean by that is I'm gonna lower until my hand gets flat, but I am trying to put an effort as if I'm resisting all of that. Excellent job. You can go ahead and come out. Again, shake that out. Fingers around some easy cars in the wrist. Okay, for the first part of our circuit, we'll be working on both protraction and retraction of the scapula. So this is important because this helps us during our push and pull movements. Remember, the scapula has to be able to support the shoulder when it comes to distributing force. So that's what the scapula's job is. So we're gonna practice that. Go back in the quadruped. Take 1 yoga block. It's gonna be under your left hand. Now, the right hand is gonna be out in space as if there's a yoga block under it. Now, it may look like the right hand or the right arm is doing a lot of the work, but it should be from the left. And here's what I mean. I'm essentially going to sink a little bit into retraction so my shoulder blade will go back to my spine, and then I'm gonna push through and find protraction. So retract and then push through. Go ahead and start that. We're gonna do about 10 slow reps. So think about pulling yourself down and then pushing back up. When you push, drive through that block. Key point here, like we worked on before with the spine, I want you to actually not use the spine. So as best as you can, feel that shoulder blade glide across your rib cage on the back. You'll get a little bit of spine movement, but you should feel that the actual motion is coming from the scapula. For our body weight people out there that like to do a lot of planche work, push-up work, stuff like that, well, you need protraction to help keep that shoulder stable in that position. So this is exactly what we're working. It's about 10 reps. Finish, get one more for good measure. I'm not a great counter. I spend so much time coaching that I actually forget how many reps we do, but generally 10 is what we're gonna work on. Go ahead and switch sides. So again, we'll get about 10 reps or so with protraction. Also think about keeping the elbow straight. So you can either have the hand mimic this, or you can take your offhand, grab your elbow, and make sure the elbow doesn't bend. That's actually a big weakness that people have, is they can't distinguish scapular motion from elbow motion. Again, as you're doing that, maintain tension and focus. Take the heel of the hand and drive yourself through that block. Also think about this when it comes to doing push-ups, right? We're gonna press through so we get full scapular motion. So it's not just the arms, we also wanna exercise the full capability of the scapula. Great job. Okay, the next thing we'll be working on is scapular retraction lift-offs. So take your right hand. This is gonna be your base hand. The left scapula is what's gonna work. Left hand goes out. Now all I'm simply gonna do is keep the elbow straight and then pull back towards my spine and then come back. Pulling back and forward. Emphasis on trying to really squeeze at the end range of motion and then slowly come back. Now these motions that we do in the scapula are pretty small, right? They're not gonna be excessive, but that's the point, is because we don't actually spend a lot of time training here. So we don't get much of that stimulus, right? Especially when we think about like classic movements like overhead pressing, pull-ups, push-ups, anything like that. You very rarely actually emphasize a lot of that scapular motion, unless you have already done that a lot in gymnastics or body weight stuff. So we leave a lot of that strength potential on the table. Get one more rep. Awesome job. Go ahead and switch sides. So same thing, my other hand's gonna be plastered into the ground, pressing through. Take that right scapula, retract back, and slowly come back. I'll never forget my 10th grade biology teacher said, little things make big things, right? And boy was he right. So in this case, these micro motions that we make, not only are they gonna build awareness, but you can't train what you can't feel. So if you can start to feel your scapula more in these very simple movements, you can express more of that range of motion and the strength through the global movements, the bigger movements. Two more. Last one. And relax. Okay, the last thing we're gonna do to tie that together is scapula cars, but this time we're gonna do it with some load. We either can start in a quadruped position or a push-up position. So everybody together, in whatever position they wanna do, we'll go into a push-up position or quadruped. Keep the elbows straight. Now, retract the scapula. So it's almost like you're lowering your chest to the ground. Elbows are gonna stay straight. Elevate towards your ears and then protract or push away. Depress down back into your pocket and then retract. And then keep going through that same range of motion. Elbows don't move. Try to keep the wrists engaged. At the same time, keep the spine at minimal movement. As you start to get the hang of it, really express that circle, but again, hips and spine should stay relatively the same level as the shoulders. We've done about 5 reps at this point, so wherever you are, pause, and now reverse direction. Think about all those directions that we moved through with retraction and protraction lift-offs. Get one more rep, and then slowly let that go. Shake that out. Okay, now that we've worked retraction and protraction, our next goal is to work on elevation and depression. So get your 2 yoga blocks handy. Shoulders are gonna be underneath. And all we're simply gonna do is think about pressing the elbows through the blocks, drive up, feel the shoulder blades almost go down towards the pocket, and then slowly control that descent. 10 reps. Almost think of like as if I'm like a turtle sticking my head out of the shell, right? Just drive through, elbows are gonna stay straight. down and back. That's what you want to think. And you slide those shoulder blades down and back. This is also a great drill to work on for our calisthenic friends that like to do L-sits or even dips. It just helps you get that push through at the top, that finishing position. Make sure you hold the top position for 1 or 2 seconds as well, so you can really highlight that training effect. Go 2 more reps. Finish strong. Great job. Okay, the next direction we want to focus on is elevation, right? So think about if you're pressing overhead or doing handstands, that scapula has to be able to move and translate so it can support the shoulder. Good rule of thumb, whatever direction you're pushing in or pulling in, that's the direction you want the scapula to move. Not always, but it's a good rule of thumb. So for us, we need to have elevation, especially if we want to support going overhead. So we'll go into a modified kind of downward dog position. So essentially my shoulders are going to be in line with my wrists. And all I want you to think about doing is, while keeping the elbows straight, press yourself away from the ground and then let yourself come back down in a retraction or more of a depression as well. So that's all we're going to be focusing on. While you do that, think about keeping the neck relaxed, pressing the palms through the ground, and hold that position for 1 or 2 seconds to feel it, and then slowly descend back into depression. So getting that scapula to elevate is actually a big deal. I see a lot of people when they come in and we do an assessment on them, they actually are missing a lot of scapula elevation. And then they'll wonder why they have problems when it comes to doing overhead presses, handstands, pull-ups. It's a very important part of the puzzle that we're working on. Keep pressing through, hold for a second or 2, come back, let's get 1 more, just for good measure. And then slowly come back. All right, so let's put that all together with another card, but this time we'll be doing it with a pull emphasis. So we'll be doing a scap car row. I'm gonna use a kettlebell. You can also use a dumbbell, barbell. You could put something in a bag that's sturdy and use that as well. And the weight should feel 6 or 7 out of 10 when it comes to effort. Okay, for this drill, I usually like a little bit of a split stance. We'll start with the left hand. My right hand will be posted up on my actual knee, okay? Go ahead and take your object. And this isn't a traditional row where we're gonna use our elbow. Our elbow is gonna stay straight the whole time. So we wanna think of, just like we did our push-ups, we're gonna do that with the rows. Go ahead and grab the object, retract back, elevate up to your ear, protract all the way down, and then depress back into the pocket. So find that nice smooth circle. Again, can you keep the elbow straight? I think about locking out or squeezing my tricep. Can you keep the spine relatively still? And then use this weight to get a nice stretch between the scapula and the spine, and try to feel all of those directions we worked. Depression, retraction, elevation, protraction. Wherever you are, pause, reverse direction now. Squeeze, generate tension. Also notice how smooth you are in your circle. All right, a lot of times we mask weakness with speed, and you'll see a sudden increase in speed in the area that you're just not that confident, so you want to get through it. Try to eliminate that, right? Think about like we're trying to iron out any kind of wrinkles in the motion. Great job. Put that down, go ahead and switch sides. Same thing, find a nice stable base. You can also put your hand on a table if you need to as well. Elevate, retract, press, protract. Find that nice smooth range of motion. The bell shouldn't be swinging either. It should be very controlled. And you're basically just using the weight plus gravity to induce a stretch in that upper back area. So a lot of times, like when we do a lot of desk work, things like that, the scapula will get metaphorically stuck, and then they can't help distribute load as well. And And then you start to get tightness in the upper back, neck, shoulders. This is why the scapula is so linked to all those joints, because they help distribute load. Wherever you are, go ahead and reverse. Elbow stays straight. Reach for the ground on the way down. And control that descent. You want to parachute down. You don't want to fall down into it. You want to think about using all of your energy and smoothly landing that bell close to the ground, and then continue that circle. Finish that last rep. Excellent job. Come back down to the knees. So we started this way, now we're gonna end this way because we wanna use that as an assessment. Hands out, 45 degrees. All right, keep those elbows straight. From this position, start your scapular cars. Nice and smooth, reach, down, and back. Same thing, how's your range of motion feeling? A little fatigue in there, but actually more awareness for me. Now reverse direction. So now that you have more awareness with your scapula, I want you to think about incorporating it in your upper body motions. So when you do a push-up, don't just stop when your arms stop moving. Finish with your scapula in protraction, or initiate it in retraction. Same thing with the pull-up. Pull with your scapula on the way up, and keep them pinned back until you get to the way down. Everything we did today was to improve the functionality of the scapula and the wrists. However, if you want to apply these mobility concepts on a deeper level to the other joints of the body, then you're going to want to check out our most popular class pack with the link down below.